Welcome back to the Fit 40 podcast, where we simplify exercise and nutrition for busy parents 40 plus so they can improve their health and feel amazing. I'm your host, Brian Fitzsimmons, and today we're going to be talking about if women over 40 should use a weighted vest. Now, these are all the rage right now. You see it all over social media, people saying you gotta be wearing a weighted vest to get all of these amazing benefits, and we're going to cover everything. But before we do, make sure you are following or subscribed wherever you are watching or listening so you don't miss another episode going forward. So let's talk about some of the claims that people are making. Number one is that everyone needs one. Number two is that it helps with muscle and bone so that way you can fight osteoporosis and sarcopenia. And the other big one is that it burns a crap load of calories. So number one is, does every woman need one out there? Honestly, anytime somebody says everyone or always or any of these absolutes, it's always BS. But that being said, I think most women out there could benefit greatly from incorporating these into their walks and other things that we're going to talk about. Number two, does it improve muscle and bone strength and density? Yes, it can, assuming that it's the right amount of stimulus for that person. Again, we're going to touch on this. And then number three, does it burn a crap load of calories? Yes, it can. But if you're doing exercise for the sole purpose of burning calories for the goal of losing weight and or body fat, then that is not going to go very well, because those who just exercise to burn calories to lose weight usually don't end up achieving that goal, because if you don't have your nutrition in check, nothing goes the way that it needs to as far as reducing body fat and things like that. And on top of that, when you're tracking calories burned to try and get an idea of how many you're actually burning, all the trackers are so inaccurate. It's just impossible to nail down the number, and you're just better off accounting for what's coming in rather than what you're putting out, because you have much more control over those numbers. And just in my own experience working with people with those goals, it always ends up better when you track your intake versus how many you're burning. Now, that's not what today's episode is about, so I'm just going to cut myself off there. Okay, so let's talk about what's really going on. All right. When it comes to the weighted vests, what is actually happening? Well, if you are super untrained, let's say you are the type of person who hasn't been working out for months, maybe you haven't worked out ever, or you're just super sedentary right now because of your job, it can be one of the best things ever, because it's a very easy way to increase the difficulty of something as accessible as walking. And if you are weak in certain areas that the vest hits hard, then you can experience some rapid muscle gain and see that happen really, really fast, especially if you were a previous athlete or you had muscle and you're bringing it back. So when I talk about certain areas that it hits, I'm talking like your upper back, your core, your glutes. Honestly, these are all things that most people need more strength on, because when you're sitting at a desk, like I am recording this right now, you hunch over a little bit and you stretch out those shoulders because they cave in a little bit, which can weaken them over time if you are not strength training in a way that works those muscles. Okay. If you are sitting on your butt all day, you can take it to the extreme of where you get to this point that they call gluteal amnesia. Now, that's years and years and years down the road for a lot of people. Like, you don't see it until people in their like 70s, 80s, 90s, working for tons of years sitting at a desk, but it can happen. There's a reason that people talk about it, and that is because you just don't work that area. And then on top of all that is our core. Like, if we're sitting down and we have our arms on the armrest, we are not being supported by our core or our lower back muscles that are keeping us upright. We're just chilling. Same when you're sitting at home or laying in bed, they're just not getting a whole lot of work. And then when we go to pick something up and we don't have a strong core and we put it all onto our back, which also is untrained, that could lead to something like hurting our back. So for all of these reasons, having a weighted vest to work those areas can be extremely beneficial. Okay, so I would definitely recommend it, especially if you're in that category. Now, when it comes to a couple months down the road, things might have to change, because anytime you do something that is fixed, anytime you do a specific amount of weight for a specific amount of time, eventually your body adapts and it's no longer a stimulus like it was in the beginning. Kind of like when you go to a group class and you use the exact same weights for the exact same time, you see all these amazing benefits in the first couple of months, and then boom, nothing, because your body has no reason to change because it's already caught up to where you need to be. And it's the same with the weighted vest. So what do we do to increase the demand on your body to get more results? Number one, you could go heavier. You can increase the amount of weight that is in the vest. And that's a possibility. But at a certain point, how heavy are you going to go to keep that exact same amount of time? Honestly, a lot of times, and I'll get into this later when we talk about the type of vest to get, but a lot of times you only go up to, say, 20 or 30 or 40 pounds, and then the vest can't hold anymore. So, what happens when you hit that cap? Do you start walking longer? If so, that's cool. But just know as you're increasing the mileage, then overuse injuries become a potential risk. If we go from, say, an hour to 2 hours to 3 hours, and you're holding this weighted vest the whole time, that could potentially put you in a situation where you could get a strain or an injury. So, what do we do? Okay. At that point, it would make more sense to keep it as a part of your strength training regimen and plan out your week in a structured way. So, when it comes to the goal of building more muscle and building more bone, leave that to the gym and then use the weighted vest as a way to increase the difficulty on the off days for your walks, for example, or just as an easier way to keep you in a heart rate zone that you're trying to target. And that's another useful way to do it too. So if you're doing some zone 2 cardio, which is extremely beneficial as well, and you want to get there quicker because you're a little bit pressed for time, throw a weighted vest on and you could potentially get to that heart rate zone faster and not have to cover as much ground in that time frame while keeping your heart rate up. So that could be another use for it as well. But back to structuring your week, let's say you're at that point now. I would say focus on your strength training to build that muscle, build that bone, so that way you're not just hitting those areas we talked about, which is the upper back, the core, the glutes, and things that the weighted vest does, but now other parts of your body, so that way you can build more muscle for not only the purpose of making yourself stronger and everything, but also just for general health, like improving insulin sensitivity and things like that, that muscle can really, really help with. So now you can target all the different areas of your body. And when it comes to strength training, you can also use that weighted vest for that as well. When it comes to exercises that you use your grip, for example, sometimes your grip just gives out. And then we have two options. Number one, you could get some straps, which to each their own. I use straps for myself because eventually you just get to that point where you can't hold on anymore. And then it's like the grip is the limiting factor, even though you want to work a different part of your body, not necessarily your grip. And that's where straps would be very helpful. But you could do that, or you could throw on the weighted vest, depending on what it is. So squats, for example, let's say you are holding 2 dumbbells up at your shoulders and you're doing your squats and you're like, okay, I did all my reps. I need to go up in weight. I have 30s. Now let's go 35s. And then you go to hoist them up and you're like, oh crap, I can't even get them up to my shoulders. It's like, okay, well, let's go back down to the 30s, but I'll put my weighted vest on and add 10 pounds that way. You're still going to be doing 10 more pounds of your squats, just in a different way. So you're going to feel it a little bit differently, but you're going to get that same demand, which is going to drive that stimulus, which is going to get you the result. So it can work that way very well. And this goes for other things too, like lunges, RDLs, deadlifts. One awesome way to use it is for any TRX movements, because TRX utilizes your body weight. And if you only have your body weight to use, then that's all you got. And if you do the hardest variations of everything, then you're kind of stuck. But now when you put that weighted vest on, now you can increase the difficulty and do it that way. And other calisthenics like push-ups, pull-ups, things like that can also be a way that you can utilize the vest as well. So very versatile. You can do a lot with it. I'm a big, big, big fan of weighted vests, assuming that they're appropriate and you can handle that weight. Now, last thing we'll touch on is what kind of weighted vest should you get? Because there's a lot of different types out there. And I'll tell you this, for most people, and I know a lot of people listening right now are ladies over 40, those boxy ones that are like, you basically look like SpongeBob SquarePants if he was wearing Kevlar. I would not go for those just because they press down directly on the chest, and sometimes that could be very uncomfortable. So me personally, I got one that's technically a ladies one, but it's really unisex because it's just weight and it looks like an X or like a V going down the chest. And for the ladies, that runs a little bit inside so that way it's not directly pushing down on the breasts. It's kind of like running inside. But they also make a backpack version of a weighted vest where it just sits right where backpack straps would. And that's another way you could do that too. Just those that usually are on the lighter side, so you won't get as much weight. It just depends what you're going for. And it's also worth looking into if it has adjustable weight, because the one I have goes from 20 to 32 pounds. And each of the little pouches in there is like 2 pounds. So if you want to be able to add more over time or start with a little bit less than the max weight, then that's really good to have as an option. And along with that, when it comes to what you're doing, let's say walking in particular, you don't necessarily want to load up the heaviest weight right away or possibly at all. Like you can get a lot of benefit from 10 to 20 pounds. And anybody who's ever done a ruck march, for example, where you load up a heavy backpack or maybe even use a weighted vest for, can tell you a little goes a long way. You really don't need much. So when you're looking for poundage, anything between that like 10 to 30 pound mark, you're probably spot on. And then if you do want to add some weight, then it really just depends what it's for and what the goal is. But you could probably find some specialty ones. I know Rogue has like basically a Kevlar vest version of that, and you can get heavy ones for like, I think they go up to like 60 or 80 pounds, but that's a lot. It just depends on what your goals are and what you need it for. So that's pretty much all I have to say on weighted vests. I hope that this gave you enough information to make an informed decision so that you can get the best results possible based on whatever you're chasing right now. So that's that for weighted vests. Now, before you go, I know that everybody listening has some sort of interest in getting better at fitness or their nutrition. And if that's the case, I have 3 things for you. Number 1 is if you need some workouts to get you going, like let's say you're one of those beginner types that I just mentioned and you need something to do at home, super quick and convenient, grab my Toned in 20 workouts. Okay. Link is down below. Number 2, if nutrition is your thing and you really want to get better at it, then that's what the nutrition assessment call is for. Every single podcast listener gets a free nutrition assessment. So you just have to click that link below, pick a day and time, and let's talk. And then last but not least, number 3 is if you know that you need that personal accountability, that professional level of somebody being in your corner and telling you what to do and saying, just do this. That's what Fit40 coaching is for. So if you're interested in that, that link is also below. Give it a click, check it out, and hopefully we'll work together very soon. But that's it for today. Thank you so much for listening all the way through. I will see you next time. But until then, go kick some ass. Later.